the Edibris family members. Good afternoon to you. I'm delighted to note that Deepti ma'am was, I've been in touch with the ma'am for the last 2 years, primarily through Swapna and also as an educationist. And we have been thinking about, creating an opportunity for the Edibris family to hear from her. Thanks to the Edubris team who is now doing these brisk talks. These are talks from eminent educationists across the world with many years of experience, not just in education but even art, literature, and in the integrated aspect of who are primarily exploring the integrated aspects of learning and teaching. So thank you, Deepti ma'am, for accepting our request to be the speaker on this today's brisk talk. I welcome Deepti ma'am for this program. I also
thank you so much. Thank you.
I also thank Swapna for for arranging this particular session from after discussing.
I was very delighted when Deepti. I mean, I fondly called her Deepti, but you can add a ma'am along with it. Understood. So I was very delighted when Deepti agreed to it. So I think it's from her side. All the credit goes to her availability and her readiness.
And thank you so much, Swapna.
Thank you.
I may request Swapna to introduce the speaker.
Definitely.
Thank you.
Thanks, Saju. And it's my pleasure to introduce, I should say she's a true Renaissance woman. And she's a multifaceted personality, so to say. As far as I know her, as a household name because her niece, or I don't know whether her aunt, how it is related. She has been a very close friend of mine, so I keep hearing about them. And Deepti ma'am's mother was also stalwart in education. She was a great visionary who started the ICC board in Kerala when none of them even knew such a board exists, because we are all Kerala, state board inclined people. So all the way, Nalini ma'am could come and the students who came out. I know many of the students who have passed out from them. They're all also stalwart. So Nalini ma'am was an infectious personality, very exuberant. And Deepti, who is Nalini ma'am's daughter, also has, I think, partaken all the qualities. Very exuberant, very friendly. And she also has a history of, being a teacher. She has been a principal. So right now, she's also full-fledged as an executive director of Harishri Education Society in Trichure, which is, as I said, ICC board, very old and very reputed institution. And despite this, she had her, I think she finds his grains in writing. She keeps expressing. So, and she has been recently awarded with the Sahitya Sparsh Award for her shadow trilogy. A beautiful combination. It's like, Shiva trilogy, you have heard, right? It's 3 books. And I love shadows. I have written, in fact, so many poems on shadows. I was very attracted to even the caption. And in fact, I've read the book Shadow in the Mirror, Deepti, a beautiful book. And as somebody, I was going through some interviews where they say she finds the exact words to manifest the exact, very fastidious about using the proper words. So you also can get to know her. You can just Google Deepti Menon, and she has been also very actively, I think, the Readomania, that is a publishing house, which is a very reputed independent publishing house, which has published her books. So I think all of you must be already eager to hear from her, and it will be very, I think, very useful for us also how to see the arts can inspire a learner in English language. In fact, it is an all-pervasive. It is a ubiquitous element because whenever communication happens, you have to use the best of the expressions in English if you want to be effective in speaking and communicating. So how Deepti ma'am is going to, her realizations on how the arts can inspire a person to know English better, to express better. This is what I presume that Deepti ma'am is going to talk. So on to you, Deepti. We are delighted to hear from you.
Thank you so much, Swapna. After that, my God, very gratifying introduction. Let me just tell you that I'm very, very happy to be here at an EduBrisk Talk, EB Talk, as you call it. And I'm very, very grateful to Commander Saiju and to Swapna for having brought me here. And of course, for Hemant for doing all the necessary things to have me here. First of all, before I start, I would just like to congratulate the whole lot of you sitting here and ask me why. Because you are part of one of the most blessed professions ever, the teaching profession. You know, they say teaching is the one profession that creates all other professions. So think about it. You know, you have engineers, doctors, aeronautical engineers, you have writers, poets, MBA people. You just name the profession. But who is behind all those professions? It's always a teacher. I am very grateful to all the teachers I've had while growing up. I'm very grateful to my mother, who is, I think, my first teacher, and a teacher whom I think is one of, the greatest that I will ever see. I'm sorry, I'm not blowing my own trumpet, but yes, a teacher has so much in her. And if you are a true teacher, you know that you're creating destinies out there. So first of all, please give yourselves a pat on the back for being teachers. I think that's a round of applause from me for all of you, because teachers, if you're a teacher, that means you have the power to create destinies. Now today, I'm speaking as an English teacher, but what I'm going to talk about will be able to, I think, impact all the other subjects as well. Teachers who are teaching on all other disciplines as well. I talk about English because I love English. It's a passion with me. I'm a teacher, I'm a writer. So in both the aspects together, I enjoy just speaking, I enjoy writing. And I think that is why at the age of 10, when I wrote my first poem, I realized this is what I'm destined to do. Sometimes I say, when your passion and your profession come together, I think there is no greater gift. And I think I'm very, very blessed to be where I am today because I have both. And today, I'm speaking about a topic that's very, very close to my heart. I have a mother, like again, I will keep bringing her in because she has had a huge influence on me. She is not just a teacher, she's the quintessential drama queen. And I'm sure you all know what that means, that she brings a lot of drama into whatever she does. And I think a little bit of that, maybe 1/100th of that has, come into me as well. And so I feel that the topic that I'm going to speak on today, linking the fine arts with the teaching of English, I think that is something very close to my heart. And that is something that all of us as teachers can take away, because teaching is not just speaking. It is not just reading. It is not just going into a class and finishing off your syllabus and doing what you need to do. But there is so much more to it. And that is what I want to talk about today. A teacher needs to be vibrant. A teacher needs to know how to grasp the hearts of her children. In fact, that is the first thing a teacher needs to do, go into class and create a rapport. And once you have that rapport, let me tell you, your children will love you for life. And I think that makes all the very difference. Going to English in particular, English is not a subject that you can read from end to end. The teacher does not read, does not just finish off, do the question answers. And that, I think that used to happen in the past, where it was all chalk and talk. You cannot have that anymore. You have to have something that's interactive, more vibrant. And that is where the English teacher or any teacher in any discipline comes in. You have to capture your children, capture the interest of your children before you can actually make them learn anything. In fact, what they do say is teaching is 1/4 preparation and 3/4 theater. And that is what you go out and do. You go and create theater in your classrooms. A classroom is a vibrant space. You have so many young minds there waiting to open up to you. And only when they open up to you will they be able to take in what you're saying in its entirety. And coming to the fine arts, what are the fine arts? The fine arts, they are, there is this section of within your heart that makes you more alive than you are. The fine arts come in there, music, dancing, architecture, sculpture, just art, painting, drawing. There are so many things, so many dimensions to the fine arts. Can you put all these into your teaching? Why not? Of course you can. Why not? Now, there is this thing where a teacher goes into a class and starts talking. You have to be able to hold your children. How do you do that? You go in and whether it is the tiniest one of them all, right from the LP or right up to the +2, they're all children. They all want excitement. A teacher has to go and create that excitement. There was this case where there was this teacher who walked into class and the children were all busy. They were trying to find their books, and she asked one of the children, "Where's your book?" This, "Ma'am, it's at home." Why? Why is it at home? What is it doing there? Probably having more fun than I am, ma'am. Now, when you get an answer like that, I think your heart should just break, because that is not what you are there for. So let me go in. I think given the time limit I have, I think I will just speak a little about the primary section and then the high school +2 section. What I'm talking about, you can actually adapt it to all the different classes as well. Now let's go to the primary. The primary, they're all babies. They are looking out there. They love their teachers. They want to have a lot of time with her. As the children grow, you find that, okay, maybe they don't want to spend that much of time with their teacher. These just want to have time. They love it if you talk to them. They love to be your pets. And that is what, that love that comes out, it comes out in learning as well. Now let us take, children love stories. All of us love stories. I'm sure as grown-ups, all of us also love stories. Now, what are the most, the favorite stories that you find in your textbooks? Let me tell you, an English textbook is like a treasure trove. You have beautiful stories, you have stirring poems, you have, things that lend themselves to imaginations running riot. So let us take something called primary, maybe the Panchatantra. It could be, because Panchatantra, of course, it's so interesting. You have animal stories, and you can do so much with the Panchatantra, and they end up with a moral. Now, what happens is a moral cannot be just told baldly. The moment you do that, what do children do? They say, okay, you don't tell lies. You're supposed to respect people. You're supposed to not, you can't steal. You can't do this. You can't do that. I think that is not the way to capture their interest. You have to tell them the story and let the moral come automatically. Let it be a gentle awakening that comes to the child. Maybe the character did this. So this is what happened. So maybe we should not do that, or we should do this. So if you take something like the Panchatantra, there are so many animals there. Children love animals. So let me take one example there. Let's take a story like the hare and the tortoise, or the clever rabbit and the lion. Now, what do we do with a story like this? It's not just a story. There's so much more. Now, the teacher goes in, and the first thing as a teacher you should do is go and find out what the children already know. You know how smart children are? Do you really know how smart they are? Just talk to them. Go beyond the classroom and talk to them, and you'll be astonished to see how smart they are. They come out with such wonderful examples, such wonderful incidents. In fact, such funny incidents at times also, when I've spoken to children and I've come out laughing, because sometimes they just make you laugh. And they don't do it because they want to do it. It's just the way they put things across there. So when we're going back to the Panchatantra, what does the teacher do? The teacher goes, talks a little about the Panchatantra, sees what are the tales the children know, and then once that is done, the teacher reads it, and That is when the children realize, oh, this is a story. These are the characters. And what can we do with these characters? You take each of the characters, and it is when the children are small, like in the primary, the children need a little bit of urging. So the teacher needs to move the children onto the story, tell them about the characters, tell them about the circumstances, what are the things the characters do, what the story is all about, and then she reads it. And that first reading is all important because she reads it with perfect pronunciation, with expression, and the children should be able to gauge what she's saying, what the story is. She does not need to explain it at first. It's after the first reading that then she says, okay, children, shall we do something? Shall we have some role play now? And what is role play? Role play is taking a story and creating it into a kind of a play form so that children can start they can start speaking on their own, they can use dialogues, and they can carry on and they can put dialogues together. Once the dialogues are done, what the teacher could do. These are little points that we do it in our school, and I'm sure a lot of you have wonderful ideas. And in fact, if you could share those ideas, when even while I'm speaking, I'm sure Sapna, you could bring out some of those beautiful ideas. It could make this a more interactive session, not make this a chalk and talk session like something which I don't enjoy. I would love it if people give us ideas while I'm talking.
Well, yes, Deepti, it's true. But I think the way you are realized, better me on the listening side, we are, you as content developers, we have an intrinsic teaching requirement. We always have to put ourselves in the role of teachers, but we are essentially doing the developing content, thinking in the role of a teacher and thinking how a student takes it. So I think your realizations, we are very aptly listening and trying to incorporate in a platform. We are in a business mode, you should know, in one sense, trying to get as much as possible from you. So definitely we will, Lakshmi Moriani is heading English department. I'm sure she must be with all ears. So you can unmute Lakshmi.
Happy afternoon, ma'am. I'm all ears.
So you can, So Deepti, you can carry on. We'll definitely chip in. You can ask something, then we'll I would love to respond to your questions.
Oh, sure. Okay. So let's get back to the Panchatantra. So yes, now we are ready with our dialogues, and this is where we have something. There's this modern term for it, which we call it the integration of subjects. So here, once the dialogues are ready, are we going to do this in an elaborate form? Then we bring in the art department, the craft department, the music department, and how do we put this entire story together? The teacher, she has a very useful companion there, the blackboard. So what does she do with this Panchatantra story? She starts writing. She puts their nouns, and then she writes the names of all the animals. Now, if it is the hare and the tortoise, you have the hare, the tortoise, then you have all the others, animals, spectators. So she can put down all those. So child knows, okay, these are all nouns. Now, if it is something like Jungle Book, you already have names. You have Balu the bear, you have Kaa the snake, you have Bagheera the panther. So then what happens? If she puts those names in, those are all proper nouns. So, even without teaching, children already know about nouns, but without actually putting it out there, she is already incorporating that into her play. After that, she goes on, adjectives. Now, what do these animals look like? Are they big? Are they small? Are they shiny? Are they green in color? Are they dangerous? So you put in a number of adjectives there, and let the children also suggest what they want. Different nouns, different adjectives. The verbs are all doing words. And what can you do? You can have crafty verbs there. Now, these are verbs that say stick, cut, paste, draw. All these are those children, what children can actually do when they are part of the play. And of course, the nouns there like paper, scissors, glue, gum, etc. And finally, what you can do is you can get the child to choose the character. At that age, somehow it's better if the teachers choose the characters. You can have a number of lions, you can have a number of rabbits, you can have a number of mice, and all these children can be put together, and they start talking about their characters. I am the king of the jungle. I'm the lion. I have a golden and red mane. I roar. You know what happens when the teacher starts making the child speak, and when the teacher goes down to the level of the child, that is when the children also realize, oh, this is a lot of fun. It's not just learning; it's a lot of fun. They get stimulated. They come out with wonderful adjectives. Oh, the rabbit is very clever in certain stories. Oh, that lion, he does not have much sense. Imagine jumping into a well, looking at his own reflection. So you see, what happens is the story comes to life, and then the art and craft teachers can help these children to make masks. You have these lovely masks, very vibrant. They can have costumes. Costumes can just be dupattas put around or a crown that is made. Every little bit, every little prop makes a difference to the play, makes a difference to the story, makes a difference to the learning. And once they're out there, one or two or three times you tell them their dialogues. Let them do it. Let them come out with their own dialogues. Let them make mistakes. That is one thing we must remember. Let children make mistakes. Don't correct them. If you need to correct your children, do it in private. When you need to praise a child or compliment a child, do it in public. Have, applause ringing through. Children feel so wonderful when they are patted on the back, when they're praised. But when you have to criticize, do it in private. And do it in a way that you don't hurt the child. Children are like flowers. You cannot afford to hurt their feelings. So that's very, very important. And now once this entire play is put together, you have everything going in place. And these children, since they are very young, they cannot actually direct a play, or they cannot do the dialogues on their own. So the teachers have a lot more to do. The teachers have to take it up and make this a proper little play, and make sure that the children feel that they are the masters of their own words. Let them speak. Let them be. They need not be fluent. Children, I mean, even adults, we as adults, we are not fluent all the time. Children need time to think. They need time to speak. Give them that time. And once this is done, you can add music to this. Bring in the music department. Have a nice rousing tune when the lion walks in. Have a little, when there's some victory parade, have a kind of a little round of applause. Let there be a nice song, We Shall Overcome. That's one song which can be sung anywhere. And music. And in case you want to incorporate the PE department, you can have a little kind of a drill. The children do it together. You can have the animals coming together and doing a little drill. All these things bring a story to life. And I think for little children, this is so important. This vibrancy, this action is so important. And thus the Panchatantra comes to life. And you never know if it comes out really, really well. You could use it for an annual function. You could use it for an at-home where parents come, and you can have it when you're giving the report cards out. You can have a little show there and say, this is what your children are doing. So I think, so you see, so how you link the fine arts to teaching, it makes your teaching even more vibrant. And your children want to be there with you in class. Your children are not waiting for that bell to ring so that, they're waiting for the next period. They never, ever want your class to end. And that, I think, is the metal, the mark of a true teacher, that her children want to be with her. So I think this is something that, can be done not only in the lower primary, it can be done in the upper primary. If you bring it up a little more, make it a little more elaborate, the very same thing can be done. You can have a story of maybe Oscar Wilde, or you can have, generally you have these little playlets. You can actually put them together. And you can use this, you can bring your classes alive by doing this. This is as far as little ones go. Now, when you go on to the higher classes, when you go on to say the high school and the +2, the children are much more grown up. They already have personalities, very, very distinct personalities. You know, teenagers, they are like powder kegs. You have no idea when they're going to explode. So you have to be really, really careful about that. You need to be firm with them, but you also need to know that they have a friend around. You know, sometimes we teachers lose that what do you call it? That little part. You tend to get over friendly with the children, and the children say, "Oh, she's a friend. She's not going to do anything to us." On the other hand, you can be so strict that the child does not want to approach you. But, you know, there is that. It's like walking on a tightrope. Your children must respect you. I think that is the main thing. They must respect you. They must know that this far and no further. When you are there in class, their entire attention must be on you. They must know that the moment you open your mouth, you know what you're talking about. And class discipline, I think, is the most important thing. Your children have to be in your palm. You need to be able to control them, not, you know, in a dictatorial kind of way, but in a friendly yet firm kind of way. And that is when they look forward to your classes. So as you know, as they grow up, they know much more than, I mean, I can vouch for it. My children in school know much more than I do in a number of subjects, especially when it comes to devices and things like that. They know so much more. I'm not ashamed to say that, because I'm just happy that our children know more than us. But there is so much of unwanted knowledge also that they have. So it is up to us that we sift that knowledge, get them to know what is right and what is, you know, what they need not get into. That is our duty. We, we as teachers, it's not just enough that we teach them academically. There is so much more a teacher needs to do. A teacher needs, she is like, you know, there is a beautiful poem that says, little eyes are watching you. Little eyes are always watching you. You have to be the best version of yourself, because that, as a teacher, every eye is on you. You need to be the best version. You need to inspire your children. So now let's get back to what. Now suppose we're doing, in our school, we have something called poetry in motion. And what is this? It's just poetry. When, you know, English, like they say, is not a subject. It is not a subject that needs to be taught from end to end. There are so many nuances. There's so many. It's so idiomatic. It is so there's so much of freshness. The same poem can be taught by two people in entirely different ways. It can be taught by 10 different people, and the interpretations are so beautiful, so different every single way. Now, which is your interpretation? Now, when we had something called Poetry in Motion, where we invited a number of other schools to our school, and we said, okay, let this just be a creative space. It was not a competition. So we had a number of other schools bringing in their poems. The poetry in motion just means that, again, you act out the poem, you you link the fine arts with just poetry, and you bring out an entire, exactly what we did in the Panchatantra, but this is on a bigger scale. So we had, in fact, we did I remember once we did two poems. One was called Home They Brought Her Warrior Dead by Lord Tennyson, and the other one was The Palanquin Bearers by Sarojini Naidu. Two distinct poems. One was based on death, and one was based on life as a bride. So exactly two very diverse poems. And now what did we do? We had the how we started is the teacher went into class initially, before this entire event was created. The teacher went into class. She read out the poem and everything. But again, before that, you have the introduction. How many children, know about the poem you're going to teach? Do they know about the poet? Do they know about the century in which the poet lived? Do they know and a few other poems by the poet? What is the theme? Poetry, again, is not to be taught end to end. The essence of poetry should come out. And how does that come out? It depends entirely on the teacher. How does she how does she read the poem? How does she introduce the poem? What is there in the poem? What are the key elements? What is the theme? What are the figures of speech? How do you make this poem come alive? Most important, how do you make the poem come alive? And once the children get, what the nuances are, the teacher can do many things to make poetry come alive. Once the poem is done, she can ask them to make scrapbooks. She can ask them to make presentations, PowerPoint presentations. If it's a poem like Daffodils, of course, daffodils, I don't know. I don't think we have daffodils in India. Anyway, if it's a poem like Daffodils, you talk about, you have children going into it, reading about daffodils, maybe in the UK. You're talking about Wordsworth, talking about his vision. So there are a lot of things a teacher can do to bring the poem alive, and Poetry in Motion does just this. Now, when it is poetry in motion, it's always better to have a poem with some action in it. Like this, Home They Brought Her Warrior Dead was something where, a warrior, of course, dies, and he's brought, and his wife, the way his wife reacts, or the way his wife does not react, and how everybody around tries to make her react, because if she does not cry, then she will die. So that is the theme of the entire poem. So when we did it in Poetry in Motion, the first thing we did was get about 10 to 15 narrators, which means you had to learn the poem by heart. The entire class had to learn the poem by heart. And then the teacher would choose the 10 to 15 best narrators who would narrate the poem. And the rest of the class would be divided into different groups. You would have the script writers, you would have the directors, you would have the prop makers, you would have the costume designers, the artists, people making landscapes, people making costumes, and you would bring in music, because it's a military theme. So you could have soldiers marching in with the body. You could have the last post being sung or being played, and then you had this entire group of children coming in with the body. You had the wife sitting there, and then the different emotions coming out. And it is narrators narrate the poem as the action is shown on stage. So you can imagine the whole impact of it. Again, the Palanquin Bearers by Sarojini Naidu. You have this beautiful little bride, and she's being carried by 4 palanquin bearers. And the poem is very rhythmic. Lightly, we bear her along. So they're bearing the bride along. And how beautifully the poem goes along with the rhythm. And once again, you can show this. You can have this beautifully, decorated palanquin. That is where the art and craft departments come in. You can have the palanquin bearers. That is where the PE department comes in. They're marching in. So and then music. Sarojini Naidu was supposed to be a nightingale. So her poetry is always very lyrical. So little background music. And when you do that entire play, put it together. Now, what are the advantages when you do things like this? Why do we take so much of trouble to do all this? There are so many advantages there. One is that it is not the teacher who's in focus. It is the children who are taking part who are in focus there. The children are all important. In a school, who are the most important people anyway? They are the children, the students. And I always say in a school that the teacher, the child, and the parents, they are like a triangle. They should hold hands together. And when you do all these little delights, these little delightful creations, you could always have the parents come in to help. You know how wonderful parents can be? Especially if they are, when they know that you are putting your heart and soul in, and if parents put their hearts and soul souls in, there is so much that can be done in school. Just to digress a little, going back to my mother, when she was, when she started the school, our school in 1978, and in around 84, she did this little Ramayana, the entire Ramayana, and her Lord Rama was a, a 6-year-old boy. So you can imagine all the others were younger. And often we underestimate our children. We say, oh, little ones, 2 to 5 to 6 to 8, they're not capable of very much. You can't have perfection. That is, it is, it's an absolutely wrong statement. Even at the age of 2, you can get a child to be perfect. It depends on you. It depends on how much effort you put in. I still remember when the Ramayana was held, and I think there were about more than 100 children taking part, and they were all under the age of 8. And every child knew every other person's, dialogues. So you had, and it was a blend of dance, drama, music, theater, everything. And there was one particular show. In fact, we took the show to Madras. We took it to a number of places. And in one particular show, you have the scene of Sita sitting under the tree in the Ashokavana, and Sita sitting there and waiting for, Hanuman. That's the time when Hanuman comes in, and Sita sitting, and suddenly there's this tree, a prop, it falls on Sita. And this little Sita, she was so tiny, she was so shocked. But then, like a little trooper, she finished her dialogues, and then she got a huge round of applause because she just went flying onto the floor. And there was this gentleman sitting. He held her and he stopped her, and the child didn't cry. And my mother went out on stage and said, little Sita, will you please give her a huge round of applause? Look at her, how brave she is. She's coming back. And then she came back, did her dialogues, went back. The next day we had another show, and little Sita refused to go onto stage. And we were all, panic-stricken. But then there was one time when my mother, when she was doing the direction, when she knew everybody else's roles. So she said, one day she said, okay, let's reverse the whole thing. And okay, Ravana becomes Rama, Sita becomes the deer, and she just turned everything around. And it was a rehearsal, and it went beautifully. So she had that mind, and she said, okay. So she went, little Sita, she went to her and she said, don't worry, I'll give you another role. And little Sita was given another role. And the golden deer was brought into Sita's role, and she did a wonderful job. And that was it was a main show. It was not even a rehearsal. So you see, we cannot underestimate our children. They do everything. They know. You just have to have that confidence and faith in them. I think it is so, so important that we show them we have faith in them. Whether it is a dramatic performance, whether it is a drill on field on sports day, whether it is just a little, a debate or something, an education. Make sure your children are as perfect as they can be. Do not let them settle for less, because they can do it. That is so, so important. The fact that we must have the patience and the faith in them. And I think that is so very important. And what do all these things do to us? What do they do for the children? The one thing is, children start, when it is a question of, when we go back to the Panchatantra, when they're creating masks and costumes, they start doing things with their own hands, and they love what they do. They love doing art and craft and having a bit of music put in, and it stimulates their imagination. The next time they do something, they know, oh, there is more we can do. We do not just stick to the basics. Much more. We can perfect this. What does it do? It gives them confidence. When they start speaking, fluency might not be there the first 2 rounds. After that, they start becoming more confident. They become fluent. They start owning the stage. They start owning their personalities. That is one thing we need to see right from the, the stage when they are little ones. Make them speak. Let them go wrong. Let them make mistakes, but make them speak. Let them speak. Let them not be afraid to express themselves. And when you start that from the LKG or from class 1, by, by the 12th, can you imagine how confident they will be? And isn't this what we need for our children apart from academics? You want them to go out there and create waves. You want them to have personalities, big personalities when they go for interviews. Today, nothing comes easy. When you go out there, when you go college, you need to stand out. You know, when you have these group discussions, people are looking at you. Who's the leader there? Who's the one who speaks well there? Who is the one who can influence the others? Where does all this come from? All this comes from what we do as we grow. Comes in our childhood. It comes when we start telling the children, be yourselves, be more than yourselves, create your personalities. You know, put footprints on the sands of time. That is what you need to do. A child is not, a child is not a complete child if she or he is just a bookworm. Reading is all important. Take it from me. I love reading. I love readers. And I love children who read. But just being a reader is not enough. There is so much more where you need to hone your personality to become more. So the fine arts, when you put them into teaching, and this is not just in English, you can do it in every other subject. Imagine in history, if you are doing the First World War and you bring in a section of it, or you're doing Julius Caesar, you want to do the assassination of Julius Caesar. That is English, but you can bring history into it, can't you? I mean, when Julius Caesar, before he got assassinated, maybe yes, Shakespeare did do things in a different way. He brought in a lot more drama in it. But what finally happens is you're linking English, you're linking history. In the same way, when you're talking about, say, atoms, you're talking about chemistry. You have them in chemistry. You have it in biology as well. So you link the two. What happens is the child's horizon broadens. And that is what you need. You don't want a child with a single dimension. It has to be a multi-dimensional kind of learning where you integrate all the subjects together, put them together in an interesting fashion, fun fashion, because children need to be stimulated. You know, you cannot have a dull teacher in a dull class. It ends up in just, it's just mundane. No, even a teacher who has no histrionic skills. I mean, it would be lovely if teachers could develop those histrionic skills. Even a teacher with no histrionic skills, when she reads, if she can just say when the lion is roaring, she roars. Or when the little kitten is there, you see, that little difference. Child hears that and says, that sounds like my kitten at home. You know, when you're teaching Shakespeare again, when you have the first scene in Macbeth, you have the first scene is the most impactful scene when you have the three witches there. It's a deserted heath and the witches are, they are going round and round their cauldron. And then there's thunder and lightning. Imagine that scene being done on stage. You have the thunder and the music department comes in. You have the thunder and the lightning and the effects. And you have the witches all dressed up. Imagine their costumes and their pointed hats and that cauldron. And then the first witch comes and says, when shall we three meet again? In thunder, lightning, or in rain? The second one says, when the holy ball is done. The witches also change their voices. There to meet with Macbeth. And there you have it, the first scene. If you go and do that in your class, and the children, you might scare the heebie-jeebies out of them. But they will not forget that scene, will they? So you see how you bring in all that into your teaching, how you make it creative. You know what Albert Einstein said? Creativity is intelligence having fun. I mean, what a lovely quote. I think that would, I mean, if every teacher could just follow that quote, I think that would be lovely. And so that is all. I mean, that this entire world of teaching just revolves around stimulating your children, the atmosphere in which your children are sitting. If your child wants to go to school, that's a good gauge. The child wants saying, I love my history teacher. Oh, I love mathematics. Oh, I want to go and I want to have every period should be English. Imagine, you know who your best teachers are. You know, we do have these, sometimes we have these we have children, we ask them questions, it's all anonymous, and we say, okay, who is the teacher who makes you laugh? Which is the subject that you find most interesting? Which is the subject you're scared of? You don't ask pointed questions like, who's the teacher you don't like? No. But you do say, who's teacher who makes you laugh? So you have such lovely, positive, reactions. Who is the teacher whom you can go to when you're in trouble or when you want to talk about something? You get such beautiful answers there. And it makes it very easy for the school management to gauge the teachers as well. Because a teacher who makes the children laugh is a loved teacher. That means she's good at her subject and she has that little extra time to make her children laugh as well. Isn't that a wonderful thing? Instead of teaching from the moment the bell rings to the bell and the bell rings again, you keep teaching, and then by the end of it, you are overloaded. Your children are even more overloaded. They have no idea, and now they have to, they have to look at the next class. Instead of that, 5 minutes, okay, talk to your children. What did you have for breakfast today? What did your mother say about your drawing? Wow, and the children come out. Of course, don't make a habit of it, because then the children will say, okay, now we're going to only talk. No, you change your methods. Talk for 5 minutes in the beginning, or at the end, talk for 5 minutes, or in between. Keep them guessing. What is Ma'am going to do today? What is she going to speak about today? Is it just about the subject or the topic or the language? Is she going to tell us a nice story? And like I said, moral stories. Don't be moralistic. Don't be bombastic. Don't be didactic. Teach them all that through example. Teach them, through stories. The great epics we have, the Mahabharata and the Ramayana. I mean, you learn through examples. It's not that they tell you, don't do this, don't do this, don't do this. They teach you through example. So I think that, again, is very, very important. And so these methods that I have kind of tried to expound here, if you use them in different variations, it could work in all the classes. So that, I think, is how you kind of link the fine arts to the teaching of English or any other subject. You can have exhibitions at the end of the year. We have an art and craft exhibition at the end of the year, or around the last working day, just before the Christmas holidays. So whatever art and craft gets done, whatever topics get taught, they are displayed so that the parents can come and have a look. So that is where they realize that, yes, we are trying to integrate all the subjects together. Because you sometimes, one year we had a historical pageant, one year we had the history of Kerala, one year we had a religious pageant where we had all the religions coming together, and it was all done in across the school in stalls, different stalls, where for the religious pageant we had Hinduism, we had Islam, we had Buddhism, we had Christianity, all in different areas of the school. We had this beautiful poem called "The Blind Man and the Elephant." We actually had an elephant. I mean, not a real elephant, though Kerala we can use a real elephant as well. But we had a huge figure of an elephant, and we had the blind man standing, and the poem written there, and people would come around and look at it and say, "Oh, so this is the poem, is it?" So there is so much you can do in a school atmosphere, in the school space of school. Academics is just 1/4 of it. It's a very important, very, very important aspect, mind you. because yesterday the ICSE, ISC results came out, and we're pretty happy with our results, yes. But so academics is a huge part of school, yes. But there are so many other more. It's just the tip of the iceberg. There are so many other aspects to school learning, and you can use these to bring out the personalities of your children, which I think is all important. So there you have it. That is all that I have to say. Now, if there are any questions, I would love to answer them.
Yes, thanks, Deepti. Thanks a lot for sharing your very painstakingly and patiently sharing your thoughts and realizations. Anybody would like to ask anything to ma'am? Because as she said, English and maths, they're languages of modeling other subjects. They're not subjects as per se. They're part of all the other ways of communicating. In science, you have to use words. Everywhere you have to use it. So it's a modeling object. So if anybody has any questions, please let us have some session of interaction too. Lakshmi, Moriani, would you like to ask something?
Yeah, I don't have a question, but what you mentioned is absolutely true, because when I was into teaching field, like in a formal teaching school, so what we used to do, especially with literature, we used to create dioramas and have exhibition about it. So children were very curious, and with those rolling thing like a cassette. So I agree.
Well, that's a lovely idea. That is a lovely, lovely idea. Yes, I know. And like you said, children are naturally curious.
Absolutely.
And the one thing the teacher should try is to, not nip it in the bud. She should try and allow that curiosity to grow.
Correct.
Another thing we actually do is something called the flipped classroom. That again works wonders, because I think we started it in school, and that was where the focus is more on the children. The teacher does not teach. The subject that it gets taken in, the teacher just takes. We said start with simpler topics. So you take a topic. If it's a poem, take a poem, and then we just hand it over to the children, and the children do the entire research. They go into the internet, they go into a podcast, they sift the information. You have children put into groups together, and each one takes one aspect of the poem. And by the end of it, they know everything. And what does the teacher do in that case? The teacher just comes in and fills in the gaps. So that method has really, really worked, because when you give the child a chance to, do his or her own thing, they tend to take more interest. And sometimes they give you information that even you didn't know, which is wonderful. So that is a lovely way of, instruction, the flipped classroom.
Good evening, ma'am. I'm Kala. I'm a Hindi teacher, so I can totally relate to what you're saying. We have been doing in the school, whenever I was in the school teaching formally, I have done this. And as you said, we would give them a lesson to say there are 5 sections in a particular class, and all of them would be given the same lesson. As you said, put music into it, art into it, craft into it. They would come up with brilliant ideas and brilliant portrayal of the same lesson, and everybody would watch it. We would have it in such a way that the other 4 sections sit and watch one section. So everybody would come up with different ideas of the same lesson. They would have their own inputs, they would add their own dialogues. So yes, they end up learning more this way, and definitely it's more interesting. But the only drawback is, ma'am, that we do not have time to do so many sessions like this. That is the only drawback which we have in school. Otherwise, it's a very interesting way of learning things, and learning on their own. As you said, the children end up learning on their own much more than what maybe we would end up telling about that lesson, definitely. And thank you so much, ma'am, for that interesting session we had with you.
Thank you so much, Kala. That's a lovely, lovely point. And as a Hindi teacher, we have a wonderful Hindi teacher in school, and for every Hindi Divas, she makes sure that every section of school does something in Hindi. And she brought up the children so well, because in Kerala, Hindi is only a third language. So
I can totally relate to it, ma'am. I have been teaching Kerala also. I can totally relate to it. Yes, it's up to the Hindi teacher to be. The children are blessed to have such a Hindi teacher if she's can
absolutely
bring up the interest in the language.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Kala. Thank you.
Same here, my pleasure, ma'am.
So I would like to, before I request Lakshmi Moriani to give a thanks notes. I would personally want to express my thanks to Deepti, who give us more ideas about integrated learning, how to connect English to all subjects. So when we are actually, as I told you, we are not directly into teaching, but we are developing content which aids a teacher, makes teaching enjoyable and learning enjoyable. So definitely take your inputs, Deepti, and we will incorporate in our development of content for the quick learning, and especially the language English, which is, as we said, it's not a subject as it is something which we use. It's a utility thing which we use for all other subjects. So thanks a lot. And Lakshmi Mauryani, I request you to give
Sure,
the
ma'am.
thanks notes. Thank you.
Thank you so
Happy
much. Thank you
afternoon,
so
all.
much.
Happy afternoon, all. I really feel very honored and privileged to get this opportunity to propose a vote of thanks on this special EB talk. On behalf of EB team, I would extend my deepest gratitude to the distinguished author, esteemed executive director of the school, Hari Shri Vidya Nidhi School, Thrissur. If I've pronounced it correct, I'm not
Yes,
sure.
absolutely.
And eminent educationist Ms. Deepti Menon for your valuable contributions on today's enlightening talk on the linking of fine arts to the teaching of English. Your profound insights into the intersection of fine arts and English education have broadened our perspectives using the drama, the appreciation method, the music therapy, and PE, which can be included, and many other mentioned approaches. Your expertise and your passion for literature have enlightened a spark of creativity among our educators. Lastly, your expertise and dedication in enhancing the English language instruction are truly commendable. Your guidance on integrating the fine arts into our teaching practices will undoubtedly enhance the learning experience of our all staff. So thank you once again for your enlightening contributions and unwavering commitment to the educational excellence. All the best. Keep spreading the knowledge that you have. Thank you so much, ma'am, for spending your time
Thanks,
with us.
Lakshmi, for your wonderful words of appreciation.
Thank you.
So,
Thank you so much. Swapna, can I just say 2 words more? Thank you so much, Lakshmi. You were one of the first people I noticed because I saw the smile on your face. The moment I came onto this forum. So thank you so much for your lovely, lovely words. I'm very, very deeply honored. And Swapna, can I just thank you as well? Thank you for bringing me on forth here, bringing me on board here, and I've thoroughly enjoyed this session. Thank you.
I think,
Thank
yeah,
you.
more than thanking me, I think I should feel honored. And I also got some, I mean, in personally, I'm also very attracted to English, right? I have some soft corner for the English. So I also enjoyed thoroughly, and I was happy. Usually I don't take much of this role of introducing people, but when Saiju asked me, I did not even hesitate to say yes. So I was enjoying, in fact, and more than you thanking, I thank you so much, Deepti. And Hemant, would you like to wind up the session? Would you like to say something?
Thank you all for participating in the session. And thank you, Deepti ma'am, especially for gracefully ushering the session. And we all were enlightened. And we all believe in the philosophy of integrating knowledge. And that's what we are trying to deliver in schools. And with your guidance and support, I think we'll be able to do it much better. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thanks, everyone. Thank you.
Thank you all. Thank you so much,
Bye.
Edubris. Thank you.